फिर से ओके ठीक है. Good morning friends. Today I'll be taking one of the important topics of international relations. As you know, international relations are part of your paper 2, that is Indian polity. At the same time, international relations, topics related to IR figures in areas like current affairs, in areas like general essay. Of course, given the paucity of time, I don't think I would be able to take any major topic. फिर से करनी पड़ेगी मुझे दिखता है, वहां से पूरी आवाज आ रही है. इसको एरेज कर दीजिए. इधर नहीं आएगी ना आवाज अब? तो आप बोलो तो स्टार्ट करें. Good morning friends. Today I will be covering one of the important topics of international relations. International relations, as you know, are part of your paper 2. At the same time, topic related to international relations do figure in your essay paper as well as on current affairs topics. See, given the paucity of time, I don't think I will be able to take up any major international relations topic like say India-China, India-Pakistan, India-US relations, or say UN. For that you need to have lot of background knowledge, that is about Cold War. You should have fairly good knowledge about European history and world history. That is possible only when I start taking your regular classes. Today is just an introductory class. As a result, I am taking a very narrowly focused area of international relations, that is South Asia. As you know, these are the days of regional groupings. If you look at the whole world, just look at United States, that region of in South you have LAFTA, Latin American Free Trade Agreement. North you have NAFTA, North Atlantic Treaty, North Atlantic Free Trade Area. Then you come to Africa, ECOWAS, Economic Organization of West African Countries. Then European Union is a major regional grouping, as you know. Then you have if you look at West Asia, you have GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council, you have OPEC. Then you come towards Southeast Asia, you have ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Similarly, for the region that is relevant for us is South Asia, what we normally call, which broadly consists of countries like India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Maldives, Sri Lanka, and I think one country I am missing. Total 7 countries. It will be very clear to you as we proceed. I have given a brief, later on you can look into my notes. It's a brief description of what a region is and why regions, and firstly what exactly is a region. Region is a small part, a sub part of the world consisting of group of countries which have certain common geographical, cultural, lingual contiguities. Contiguities means continuities. So South Asia is one such region. Take for example, Latin America is one such region. Central America is another region, right? So this is what exactly what what we mean by a region. And you can find lot of regionalism is in global politics these days. Now the question arises, why do regions come into existence? Historically, regions came into existence largely because of defense, security and strategic purposes, right? I mean, if you look at history, it had more to do with concept of balance of power. What exactly is balance of power? Suppose there is a country called A country. Now A is supposed to be a very powerful country, right? I don't know why it is not coming. A is assuming a very powerful country, right? So B, C, D used to align against A. What was the purpose? Purpose was to maintain balance of power. In the sense, A should not become overwhelmingly powerful as to threaten the security of other countries in that region. So regions came primarily on account of military security and defense purposes. But these days regions are in existence primarily for economic cooperation, and more so after the end of Cold War in 1990s. Now coming to this region of South Asia, before you study a particular region in the world, try to understand the characteristics of that region. Now if you look at South Asia, as I said, broadly it consists of countries like, you can look into the point 2, India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Bhutan and Maldives. It broadly came into existence in 1985, right? So the thing is that, what exactly are the characteristics of this region? If you look at this region, there are certain very pertinent characteristics you can find in this region. One, it is densely populated region in the world. I don't think there can be any other region which is as densely populated as this region. Secondly, it is very low in HDI. I hope you know what is meant by HDI, Human Development Index, right? Poverty is not the only yardstick there. I mean, there are many umpteen number of yardsticks like GDP, like level of education, like healthcare facilities. I mean, combined, it's a multi-dimensional term. As a result, this area is region 1, which figures very low in HDI. At the same time, the third characteristics of this region is, it is primary producing. Primary producing means more number of people are dependent on agriculture. I mean, if you look at South Asia, almost 70 to 75% people rely on agriculture, right? So the thing is, now the most important characteristics of this region is, it is Indo-centric region, because many a times this question was asked both in mains interview and I mean at various level this question is asked. Explain Indo-centricity and its implications for foreign policy. So what do you, firstly, before explaining the implications of Indo-centricity, I think you should be clear as to what do you mean by Indo-centricity, right? Why we call South Asia as Indo-centric region. Indo-centric, to cut the long story short, basically means an India dominated region. Why do you think it is India dominated region? There are certain very specific reasons why this region is called as Indo-centric region, right? Take for example, we say Asia is a China-centric region, right? The world before 1945 was a Eurocentric world. Eurocentric world means dominated by 4 or 5 European powers like Britain, France, Portugal and Spain, because these were the 4 countries that literally colonized the whole world. Similarly, South Asia, when we talk about South Asia, which consists of these 7 countries which I mentioned just now, is primarily a Indo-centric region. Why? Because if you look at the map of this region, India constitutes 70% of the landmass. Its population is 3 times the size of all 6 other countries put together. It represents 80% of economic output, right? Whichever way you look at this region, in terms of nuclear strength, in terms of global influence, in terms of military strength, India is head and shoulders above all these other countries. Nowhere you will find this kind of asymmetry in any other regional grouping. And even historically, if you look, once upon a time this region was ruled from New Delhi, including Burma, although Burma is strictly part of ASEAN. And secondly, even if you geographically, India is at the center. India shares land and maritime boundaries with all these 6 countries, whereas they do not share boundaries with each other. And you can find culturally, lingually also, if you look, you can find all these countries in India and a part of India in all these countries. Why I am saying this? You look at the major religions of this region, right? Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism. You can find all the 3 in India. Then language, Bengali. In this entire region, Bengali is spoken at 2 places. One is Bangladesh and another West Bengal, again India. Then Tamil, it is spoken in Sri Lanka as well as in Tamil Nadu. Again you can find commonality with India. Thirdly, Urdu and Punjabi, they are spoken in Pakistan as well as they are spoken in India. So all these countries have something in common with India which they do not have with each other. So you look whichever way you can, it is an Indo-centric region, right? As I said, militarily, nuclear strength, military strength, economic strength, size, population, location, history, language, culture, religion, whichever way you look, it is an Indo-centric, means India dominated region. This kind of asymmetry you will not find in any other regional grouping. You just look at NAFTA. We say America is a very big country when compared to Mexico, but Canada is a far bigger country than America. You look at ASEAN, we say Singapore is a very small country, but it is also the richest country in that regional grouping, right? So this kind of asymmetry, by asymmetry I mean inequality, you will not find in any other regional grouping. Now asymmetry comes with a cost. And what exactly is the cost of this asymmetry? Cost of asymmetry is that even genuine initiatives of India are often misunderstood as hegemonistic or dominating, right? So the thing is that these countries are always suspicious about India and India's intentions, right? Because you have certain historical developments that actually corroborate this line of thinking, right? Like India divided Pakistan right through the middle into half, 71. When there was a crisis in Sri Lanka, India sent its army in 1987. Subsequently in 1988, when there was a crisis in Maldives, it is when there was a political coup, the government of Abdul Gayoom was dismissed by the rebel groups. He requested India for help, and ultimately it is government of India which sends India's peacekeeping forces and restored the regime of Abdul Gayoom. Similarly Nepal, right? Nepal feels that India is intervening too much into their affairs, right? Entire economic budget, 5-year plans of Bhutan today are financed by India. So they think they take help from India, at the same times they blame that it is India which is trying to interfere too much into their affairs. India is acting like big brother, and India, in a sense, even genuine initiatives of India are often misunderstood as hegemonistic and dominating. So all this suspicion is because this region is Indo-centric, and this kind of asymmetry you will not find in any other regional groupings. Now what is significant for us is, what are implications of this given logic? We say in global politics there are many things that are given: history, geography. Like Pakistan today, significant country, not because of its inherent strength, but primarily because of its geographical location, right? So there are all these compulsions are there, you should take into account in global politics. Now this is a given fact of this region. As I said, historically, geographically, lingually, culturally, in terms of theology, right? In terms of economic strength, in terms of global influence, in terms of military strength, in terms of size of market. This is, by any standards you take, India is head and shoulders above. Now what are the implications of this kind of asymmetry or what are the, implications for foreign policy in this region for this kind of Indo-centricity or India dominating this region? See, it has resulted in our neighbors adopting threefold foreign policy. What do you mean by threefold foreign policy? As I said, these are implications of this kind of asymmetry in this region, which is often referred as Indo-centricity, right? They try to internationalize a local or bilateral dispute. See, when you have a separate regional grouping, or you can always solve any problem at bilateral level, where is the need to internationalize? This they do all the time, like Pakistan does it on Kashmir, Sri Lanka does it on Tamil issue, right? Nepal does it on the issue of citizenship, Bangladesh does it on the issue of sharing of river water. The purpose, so they always, right, instead of solving any bilateral dispute bilaterally or within the regional groupings, they try to internationalize it. Second implication in terms of foreign policy in this region is that they try to involve an extra regional power into the local disputes. This is happening right from 45. Everybody thought that it may subside after the end of Cold War, that is 1990, but it didn't. Why? You see, they always try to involve an extra regional power. Initially it was primarily America which they wanted to involve. Subsequently today it is China, sometimes it is Gulf countries, right? In order to counterbalance India. And thirdly, they try to cooperate among themselves in order to again counterbalance India, so that it should be some sort of a collective bargaining power against India. So these are the threefold foreign policy adopted by these regions as a result of Indo-centricity. Now let us see why exactly, when all other regional groupings are so successful, as I said, these are the days of regional groupings, why is that you do not find SAARC, that is South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, a success story? In fact, you can even go to the extent of saying that it is a failure. It is not a success story like ASEAN, like European Union, or like, you will be surprised to know that level of integration in European Union or level of cooperation as you have in a country like, region like ASEAN. They have common market, they have common constitution, they have free trade agreement among all these three countries, all these 10 countries of ASEAN, right? Plus there is so much of commonality, including common emblem, common flag and common constitution. right? Now coming to European Union, you will be surprised it's not just the question of cooperation. There is a very high level of integration. You have many supranational bodies. You have common currency. Euro is common currency for 32 nations, right? If you take Schengen visa, you need not take visa for at least 28 countries, right? They have common currency, common market, common finance ministry, common reserve bank, common judiciary, common finance minister, common head of the nation also at one level, for which they have elections. They have a concept called dual majority, right? That is the level of integration you will find in European Union. And SAARC came into existence in 1985. That is almost 37 years. But to date we do not have free trade agreement in this region. Although free trade agreement could be a win-win game for all these countries. But why we haven't seen much progress in terms of achievements in this particular regional grouping, which directly concerns us? There are many historical reasons. Take for example, historically we have inherited all kinds of disputes in the form of sharing of river water, disputes with regard to boundaries, disputes with regard to territories, dispute with regard to minority problems, dispute with regard to issue of language. Then add to this post-independence disputes like illegal migration, cross-border terrorism, right? Plus this region is also prone to all kinds of natural calamities. Besides man-made calamities, this region is prone to all kinds of natural calamities like floods, earthquakes, cyclones. I mean, you name anything, you have it in this region. So these are some of the, plus the traditional rivalry between India and Pakistan is one of the biggest stumbling block for SAARC being not a very successful example of a regional grouping. Plus, as I said, Indo-centricity, and see, added to this, sometimes in a regional grouping you require an external glue, an external threat that will serve as a glue for unity. Take for example, in case of European Union, it was always fear of Soviet Union or subsequently Russia, which united all these countries. In case of ASEAN, it was case of threat from China. But here in South Asia, all these countries consider each other to be threat, right? Now, does it mean this area has no potential? No, I will not agree to that. I feel there is a huge potential for cooperation. Like, imagine a market of 170 crores people. It offers limitless opportunities for investment, for trade, for all-round development of the region. Every region has its own strength. Take for example Pakistan. Pakistan is located in it has one of the most ideal locations which you can think of. It connects civilizations, it connects continents, right, through which we can get access to Central Asia, not just India, all these countries, right? Then Sri Lanka is endowed with limitless natural resources, right? Nepal is surplus in water, Bangladesh is surplus in minerals, right? India is a complete package. So if at all there is cooperation, it is going to be a win-win situation for all these countries, but on account of many reasons, historical and the contemporary reasons which I told you, unfortunately SAARC is not able to pick up. Why I am saying this? For a very, very specific two primary reasons. Besides all the reasons that I said, these are the days of economy. To date we don't have free trade agreement, although India has a free trade agreement with another regional grouping called ASEAN on services, not on goods. This again is a very different issue. I'll be telling you at the appropriate time. Now, but within SAARC we do not have any kind of free trade agreement. And another yardstick through which you can measure the success of a regional grouping is intra-regional trade. Now let us see what exactly is the level of intra-regional trade in this region. See, it is 50%, it is almost 50% in case of 50% in case of NAFTA, that is America. 50%, I don't know why it's not working. 50% in case of NAFTA, 55% in case of ASEAN, 60% within European Union, whereas if you look at SAARC, it is only 5%. Right? So the thing is, this is the reason why this region you cannot, I mean, look at the level of commonality in all these regions and just contrast it with, to date we hardly have such supranational institutions like common parliament, common currency, common market, right? What is that we have achieved? Except one common secretariat in Kathmandu, which most of the time is closed, or a South Asian University in Chanakyapuri area of Delhi. What besides conducting some cultural festivals here and there, what are the concrete achievements to show on the ground, despite at least 20 summits, foreign secretary level talks, cultural exchanges? Despite all this which are going on since 37 years, I do not think we have much to show on this front. But as I said, how is that you are going to answer this question, Indo-centricity and its implications for this region? For this, I will be taking a separate class. Please attend my next class on orientations. There I will be telling you how you should go about writing your answer. Thanks. हो गया सर? सर हो गई क्लास एक, इसके बाद लेते हैं. राइट, हाँ. अब इनको ओरिएंटेशन क्लास देते हैं, यानी प्रीलिम्स कैसे फेस करें, मेंस कैसे फेस करें, थोड़े मॉडल क्वेश्चंस भी दिखाते हैं. नहीं, मैं चाय नहीं कर सकता. पानी, हाँ पानी.
तो सर इसको रोक दीजिए, हो गया.
रोक दीजिए, कैसे रोकते हैं मुझे तो वो कट कर देंगे ना बाद में. सर आपके घर में एक जे के जादू थे हमारे last class I covered a small topic of international relations, that is South Asia regional group. Now I have been asked to देख लो और सारी चीजें चेक कर लो ना एक बार, नहीं नहीं कट कर देना ये। नहीं आ रही है आवाज, आवाज नहीं आ रही ना,
आवाज यहाँ नहीं आएगी।
अच्छा वहां आएगी अभी, हाँ इट्स ओके राइट। फ्रेंड्स, in my last class I took one important topic of international relations, regional grouping, and the one regional grouping that was relevant to us was SAARC, that is South Asia. But question which quite often comes to the mind of aspirants is that how we should go about writing answers, how we should go about the kind of questions which we are likely to get. Right, for that let me tell you, I have to give you some sort of an orientation, because there has been a cataclysmic change in the pattern, the way questions is asked in UPSC, especially from 2013. The conventional approach of reading, remembering and reproducing is not going to work, because no more you will find straight questions these days. Forget about mains and the interviews, even in prelims you will not find straight questions, right? Like earlier, the typical question was, say, capital of India, Delhi, Mumbai, Calcutta, Hyderabad, and you used to tick Delhi and you used to get marks. But these days there is so much of subjective element even in objective type questions, right? So you require lot of analysis, lot of thinking even in prelims, that is objective type questions. They are not as straight as they used to be. With this I am not saying that you are not going to get straight questions, you may get, but that will not be more than 20%. 80% of the questions will be asked in a very roundabout, convoluted and confusing manner. Both, I mean, as I said, in prelims as well as in the mains. So I'll just try to explain you some model questions. Take for example, a very rudimentary example I can give you is, fascism as an ideology lays stress on, it lays stress on ideology, nation, leader, party. Now what is that you are going to take? Because all four are correct. It's not straight option like capital of India, Delhi, Mumbai, Calcutta, Madras, and you tick Delhi. As I said, here all four are correct. What is that you are going to take? You will have to tick the most appropriate one, right? So here the most appropriate one would be, as I said, all four are correct. Fascism lays stress on leader, it lays stress on ideology, it lays stress on nation, it also lays stress on party. But here the most appropriate one would be nation. Any other answer if you take, though technically you are right, but you will be losing marks. So the thing is that let us look into some of the important, the pattern of UPSC these days, right? One such list will be like, one such model is the way questions these days are asked, especially after 2013 in UPSC. See, match the list 1 with list 2 and select the correct answer using the codes given below. List 1 contains the terms mentioned in the preamble. This question is with regard to preamble. List 2 contains implications of those terms. Take for example, the list 1 consists of the concept or the word, and the list 2 consists of list 2 consists of its implications. So just have a look, and these are the codes that are given. So how is it you are going to answer them? Republic, what would be the correct answer here? Republic means state does not recognize any religion as, Republic means head of the state is not a hereditary monarch. So A is matched with 4. Secular, state does not recognize any religion as state religion. So B is 3. Democratic, right? Democratic means government gets its authority from the will of the people. That is C is 2. Sovereign means state is free to conduct its own internal and external affairs. So what could be the most appropriate answer here if it is visible to you? I think 3, third is the correct answer. It would be the correct matching, because A is 4, B is, C is 2, right? And here also you can increase your speed by the process of filtering out what does not fit. Take for example, just take one word, first word, republic. Republic means head of the state is not hereditary. So A is 4. In how many options A is 4 figuring? Second and third. So 1 and 4 immediately you can remove. Right? This is the way of increasing your speed in answering objective type questions. Next, which one of the following pairs is not correctly matched? How is that you are going to answer this? Though it sounds a very straight question, but it is not. Right? Which one of the following pairs is not correctly matched? A. Article 15, special provision for socially and educationally backward class. B. Article 22, safeguards under preventive detention. C. Article 14, equality before law and equal protection of law. D. Article 16, discrimination in favor of women in service under the state. So look at the core word, and core word is not properly matched. Question is not what is properly matched. Question is what is not properly matched. So let us see this. Article 15, special provision for socially, yes, fine, it is perfectly matched. Article 22, safeguards under preventive detention, again it is matched. Article 14, equality before law and equal protection of laws, again this is matched. Article 16, discrimination in favor of women in service, this is not matched, because it is part of Article 15(3) of the Constitution. So obviously D is not properly matched. Now this is a very straight question, right? And as I said, after 2013, this kind of questions, their numbers are coming down. You will hardly get 20% of the questions which will be straight. Rest 80% of the questions, even in prelims, that is objective type questions, will be asked in a very roundabout, convoluted, confusing manner. So you can find so much of subjective element even in objective type questions, right? It's like, it's a very straight question. Authority to specify which caste shall deem to be scheduled caste rests with President, Governor, Prime Minister, National Commission for Scheduled Caste. Obviously President, Article 340. Now consider the following statements about the Attorney General of India. Right? He is appointed by the President of India. He has right to take part in the proceedings of the Parliament and can vote. He has right to take part in the proceedings of the Parliament but cannot vote. He has right to audience in all courts in India. Which of the statements given are correct? I will show you the two back statements. You can just see the here. Which of the following statements are given are correct. Your options A 1 and 2, B 1, 2 and 3, C 1, 3 and 4, D 1, 2 and 4. Right? So let us see. We will go from reverse. He has right for audience in all courts in India. Correct? So 4 also has to be there. He has right to take part in the proceedings of Parliament but cannot vote. Correct? Please understand, position of Attorney General of India is just like position of a Member of Parliament. He has all the rights, privileges of a Member of Parliament. He can participate, he can defend the government, he can speak. Right? So obviously 3 and 4 should figure in your answer. So what cannot figure? What is wrong about him? He is appointed by President, even that is correct. He has right to take part in the proceedings of the Parliament. As I said, he is like any other Member of Parliament. But only thing is that he cannot vote. Whereas the option is he can vote. So except 2, 1, 3 and 4 are correct. So where 1, 3, 4 are figuring? C. So C is the correct answer. Right? Then on which of the following issues can a governor make recommendation to the president? Right? Your options are dismissal of State Council of Ministers, removal of the judges of the High Court, dissolution of the Legislative Assembly, declaration of the breakdown of the constitutional machinery in the state. Select the correct answers using the codes given below. A, B, C and D. So which one do you think would be the correct answer? I mean, this largely relates to, as you know, Article 356 of the Constitution. So just think it over and try to answer it. I think C is the correct answer. Right? Why? Because under 356, governor can certainly dismiss Council of Ministry. He can dissolve Legislative Assembly. He can declare breakdown of the constitutional machinery in the state. Removal of judges by the High Court. Of course, this is not under the purview of governor. Who removes the judges of High Court? Only technically President, but only on the after impeachment motion being passed in both the houses of Parliament. Right? So other than 2, rest all 3 are correct. So C will be the correct answer. So this is how you should go about writing your prelims. Right? As I said, straight questions will be less than 20%. Rest of the questions will be asked in a very confusing, convoluted and perhaps roundabout manner. So this is about your prelims. If you want me to take up one more, perhaps I can take one more, but only if you feel. Otherwise, I'll do one thing. I'll just forward my paper. You can look into that. Now coming to mains. Mains is a slightly tricky area, because if students ask me, sir, what is one factor which makes difference between success and failures in civil services, I always tell it is answer writing. So practice answer writing as much as you can. Why I am giving so much of stress on answer writing is because you might read many notes, you can refer to many books, but ultimately if you are not going to, all your hard work, all your intelligence must be reflected through your answer. Your answer is like your letter of introduction. How does an impersonal examiner correcting your paper somewhere will know that you are fit for this job? It is only through your, as I said, if it is a job in a corporate, they will get fairly good idea about you even without meeting you, through your CV or through your past performance or through inquiry where you have worked in a previous company and all that. But here, UPSC, as I said, some impersonal person who know next to nothing about you will be deciding whether you are fit for the job or not. How you will know it? It is only through your answer. Your answer, आपका उत्तर आपका पहचान पत्र है. Your answer is your letter of recommendation. Now, it is for this reason I tell, although you read less, but concentrate more on answer writing. Perhaps I will be giving you some model questions as well. Try to answer them as much as you can. As I said, after 2013, entire pattern has changed, right? When there is so much of subjective element in prelims, which are supposed to be the objective test, you can imagine the level of subjectivity that is being introduced in your mains. Again, with this, I am not saying that there won't be any straight questions. There can be straight questions. Say a question could be ordinance making power of president. It's a straight question, but these questions will not be, it will be less than 20%. Questions will be more and more, as I said again, in a very convoluted manner. Question could be, civilization is what we have, culture is who we are. Explain. Question will not be on functions of parliament, and you start writing it's law making, grievance redressal, electing president, electing prime minister, right, removing judges of Supreme Court, like it's legislative functions, executive functions, right, constituent functions, all that. No more such straight questions are being asked in civil services, especially after 2013. Questions could be, even if a question is to come on parliament, question could be, explain parliamentary supremacy in India vis-a-vis Constitution of England and America. What is that you are going to write, and how is that you are going to write such a question? Before that, let me tell you, there are certain specific qualities, certain personality traits which they are looking for in a potential civil servant. What these traits are, you should be very clear. Otherwise, let me tell you, you will be working very hard, right? You will be reading 100 books, yet you may fail. You may not succeed. Because many a times my students come to me and tell me, sir, मैंने इतनी मेहनत की, इतना वर्क हार्ड किया, इतनी किताबें पढ़ ली, इतने मैंने विजन के नोट्स देखे, वाजीराम के नोट्स देखे, सबके नोट्स देख लिया, ये कर लिया, इनसाइट्स के नोट्स देख लिए, इनसाइट की टेस्ट सीरीज सब कुछ कर लिया, इसके बाद भी मैं पास नहीं हुआ, right? Yes, there is a specific reason, because you do not know what UPSC is looking for in a potential civil servant, right? It is like मैं आपसे सवाल कर रहा हूँ कि मौसम कैसा है और आप जवाब दे रहे हो नहीं सर कल पिक्चर अच्छी थी. So there should not be any mismatch. You should know what UPSC is expecting in you. Otherwise, with all the hard work, there will be this mismatch, and I am very sorry to tell you, you may not pass, you may not click. You should know what are the expectations of UPSC. If you can fit into that, even with a lesser hard work, even with less reading, perhaps you stand better chance of cracking this exam. So what are the qualities which UPSC is looking for in your answers? What are the qualities? The first quality which they are looking for in your answer is comprehension. What do you mean by the term comprehension? Comprehension means whether you have understood the question or not. Take for example the question which I gave. Civilization is what we have and culture is who we are. Explain. Now, I am giving you a very simple question. Now, if you are not what this question is expecting, I mean what kind of answer is expected? See, the question very clearly makes it clear that you have to explain the difference between civilization and culture, a term which is quite often used interchangeably, both the terms, right? Here you have to highlight on the differences. The moment you read the question, you must understand it. Otherwise, if you do not, immediate conclusion which your potential examiner will draw will be, this fellow is not fit to be a civil servant. Why? Because they will think that, well, this fellow is not able to understand a very ordinary question. How he is going to understand the live situations in troublesome situations, say like floods, like a communal riot, like any question. There could be any live situations. And like a professor, a civil servant doesn't have the luxury of time. Take for example, if you ask me any question and if I do not know the answer, I can always say, well, I'll answer you day after tomorrow. Give me some time. I'll verify. I'll look into the book. Can a collector or SP say that? No. They have to swing into action immediately. Right? So they have to draw an adequate conclusion based on inadequate data. So first quality which they are going to look for in your answers is comprehension, whether you have understood a question or not. And immediately, I hope you know the pattern. Your mains will consist of 250 marks. I am just taking one paper. Since I deal with paper 2, this will consist of 250 marks. Right? 250 marks. I hope you know the breakup. For all those who do not know the breakup, let me tell you, it will consist of first 10 questions of 15 marks each. You have to answer it in 250 words. So it comes to 10 questions. 10 questions means of 15 marks each, 250 words, it comes to 150 marks. Second, 10 questions, 10 marks and 150 words. So it comes to 100. Together 250. So literally you have to answer 20 questions together, right, in 3 hours. That roughly comes to hardly 12 minutes for each answer. And in this 12 minutes, you have to reflect 7 or 8 qualities in your answers. Firstly, as I said, comprehension. Immediately they will, if you यहाँ वहाँ की बात आप करेंगे, if you try to indulge in what I say academic adventurism, immediately they will conclude this person is not fit for this job, although you may be writing a very correct answer. Technically you may not be wrong in your answer, right? But yet the immediate conclusion would be, well, this person is unable to comprehend a very simple question. Tomorrow how he is going to comprehend a live situation which requires immediate action? Take for example, you may get a call from Superintendent of Police or from lower level official, sir, a girls hostel is being attacked. And next moment you can get a phone that in a particular basti communal rights are broken. Now, in both the instances, you do not have adequate data, you do not have adequate facts at your disposal, right? But are you going to say, I will take action only when I get all the facts and all the data? No. As I said, you have to draw an adequate conclusion based on inadequate data. And you have to act swiftly. As I said, if you ask me question now, if I do not know the answer, I can always say I'll answer it later. But a collector or an SP does not have. So comprehension is very important. Second quality which they are going to look for in your answer is articulation. Now what do you mean by the term articulation? Articulation basically means your articulation does not mean your ability to speak. You can speak endlessly. That's not articulation. Articulation is your ability to put forward your viewpoint in a very, very convincing, cogent and sometimes interesting manner. That is what articulation is, right? And let me tell you, even psychology says that articulation is reflection of your intelligence. As I said, articulation does not mean merely your ability to speak. Articulation basically means your ability to put forward your viewpoint in a very, very convincing, cogent and sometimes interesting manner by using minimum words. Right? Shall I give you example for articulation? I'll give you two examples of articulation. Right? I don't know how many of you have heard about Margaret Thatcher. It seems Margaret Thatcher was once speaking in England Parliament. She was a very articulate female. She was called as Iron Lady of England, but a very, very great orator. And when she was speaking in British Parliament on the issue of Falkland, where are Falkland? Falklands are in near Argentina, island on which both Argentina and England have fought war. And she was speaking on a matter of such an important, sensitive and important matter of internal security. And one of the members from opposition was constantly trying to disturb her by saying, I have a point of order. You know, point of order are generally raised when a person who is speaking is giving a false information, or when there is an issue of privilege for which speaker should permit, and speaker was not permitting. Under this one, only option left will be the person who is speaking should sit a yield, what they call as yielding. So Prime Minister Thatcher yielded. And you know what was the question? Question was, he wanted to ridicule Prime Minister by saying, well, how many fingers are there in pig's leg? Right? And you know what Margaret Thatcher answered? She said, open your shoes and count them. So this is classic example of articulation. By using minimum words, you answer in a very, very effective and interesting manner. Even if it is not interesting, at least you should be in a position to tell what you want to tell in a very convincing manner. Tomorrow there are floods in your district. Prime Minister wants to talk to you directly. And obviously Prime Minister is not going to talk to you for 10 minutes, 20 minutes. He may not talk to you for more than 3 minutes. In those 3 minutes, you have to explain Prime Minister or Chief Minister or any senior level minister, as the case may be, in a very, very effective and very convincing manner. So articulation is the second quality that should be reflected through your answer. Third quality which should be reflected in your answer is analysis. See, concentrating on facts, information, all that is good. I am not saying they are not important, but somewhere down the line there should be more and more analysis in your answer. These days your answer should be more and more analytical rather than descriptive. So this is the third quality which UPSC is expecting in your answers. The fourth quality which they will look for in your answer is organization. What do you mean by the term organization? You must organize your answer properly, right? It should be properly organized. There should not be loose ends, breaking of sentences, jumping of paragraphs. All these things should not be there in your answer. If not, although what you may be writing could be correct, but the thing is that if it is not properly organized, it gives a very, very bad impression about you, about your personality, about all these things. So your answer must be organized. How you should go about doing it, I'll tell you, right? So your answers must be organized very well. Then the next quality which they are looking for in your answer is critical evaluation. right? There could be a critical evaluation question, say on India stand on Ukraine issue, right? See, again, I'm saying about critical evaluation with a certain caveats. Do it only when you are confident, when you have all the disposable of facts, information at your disposal. Otherwise, you better avoid it, right? Sometimes question itself could mention critically evaluate, say, Gandhi's concept of non-violence. Then there is no escape. You have to do that. If you don't do it, you will lose marks. Otherwise, on any non-committal question, you indulge in critical evaluation only if you are confident. Only if you, and this confidence should not be empty confidence. It should be based on very hard logic. It should be based on reliable, irrefutable information. In absence of this, if you do critical evaluation, it will be counterproductive. So indulge in critical evaluation only when you are confident about something. Otherwise, you better avoid it. As I said, if question itself begins with critical evaluation, you cannot avoid it. Or there is one option, since there is so much of choice, you can avoid that question altogether. But on your own, indulge in critical evaluation only if you are confident, and this confidence should not stem from empty confidence, right? It should be based on sound logic. It should be based on irrefutable evidence and information. Otherwise, my suggestion is avoid it completely, right? But if you critically evaluate based on very sound logic, right, on certain core points, right, on certain irrefutable evidence, then it certainly creates a very positive impression, although you might be. Don't go by this notion that you should not be critical in UPSC. You can be. Rather, it creates a very sound impression about you, provided, as I said, you should be fundamentally very strong on what you are saying. Otherwise, avoid it. Assuming you do it, if you are confident, if you are sound in your explanation, then it creates an impression that, well, this man has ability to take risks. He is not the person who is simply stick to rules. Sometimes he will not violate rules, but within the rules he can go beyond the brief, take risks, right? This sometimes create a very good impression also, right? So I am not saying that you need not be critical. You can be, but only when you are highly confident, it is backed by facts, fact backed by irrefutable evidence. Otherwise, you avoid it. But suppose if question itself says critically evaluate, then you don't have any escape. Either you avoid that question altogether if you are unable to do it, or if not, as I said, be very thorough with facts and all that. The next quality which they are looking for in your answer is for fifth, originality. I don't know. Right? Fifth quality which they are looking for in your answer is originality. See, I do agree that there cannot be 100% originality in an answer, but the thing is that you are referring to Vajiram notes, this notes, vision notes, all insight notes and all that, right? So like you, thousands of people are also referring to the same notes, or your teacher's notes, at least in an institute. Take for example, when I am going to teach, certainly I will be giving you my notes. Like you, thousands of students will be referring to my notes, because I visit at least 8 to 10 institutes in the country, right? If everybody simply reproduces what I have mentioned in my notes, obviously examiner will come to know it, and it creates a very bad impression. So I am not saying don't rely on my notes, do rely on it, but there should be certain amount of originality in the way you are writing, right? Don't simply copy and paste. So this is also one of the qualities which they are looking for. And next is quality which they are looking for is focus. You should stay focused in your answer. I'll tell you how you can go about doing it. There should be focus in your answer, right? If you deviate too much, if you write, concentrate only on core points, right? Forget about peripheral points. Peripheral points, even if you do not mention it, absolutely no problem, right? Concentrate. You must, after reading, after comprehending the question, you must know what is the focus of this question and answer it accordingly. Don't deviate from the focus. Try to be as to the point as possible, right? Don't deviate. And finally, you have to give a conclusion. Now about conclusion also there are so many questions. Sir, conclusion has to be very catchy, it has to be very interesting. Well, if it is all the more good. Assuming it is not, there is no problem. Simply you can sum up what you have said in the conclusion, all the points. So all these qualities must be reflected in your answer. Now question is how they should be reflected. For that we will take up one or two questions and I'll try to tell you how you should go about writing them. Are you clear? Or if you not simply, if the board is not clear, simply rewind the video and see it. These are the 7 or 8 qualities. There could be other qualities also, but primarily UPSC looks for these qualities must be reflected in your answer, right? Now let us do the practical demonstration of that. If anything is not clear to you, you can always ask me in the form of questions, right? Let me take up this question, first question number 1, Indo-centricity and its implications, right? You have my answer. Anyway, I'll ask the institute to send my answer to you, or you can rewind the video. Either way, how is it you are going to write this answer? If the question is asked, explain Indo-centricity and its implications. Now the general mistake which most of the students do here is, obviously they will be intelligent enough to understand that this means it is about South Asia. Instead of writing what is a region in detail, in paragraphs and all that, SARC came into existence in 1985, right? There were head of the nations like Ziaul Rahman, Rajiv Gandhi and other things. Rajiv Gandhi said this, Rajiv Gandhi said that, right? Shrimau Bhandar Naike said this. Instead of saying all this nonsense, come straight to the point, right? The moment if you try to be descriptive like this, 100% sure that you are not going to click in this exam, because as I said, those 7 qualities must be reflected in your answer. How it will be reflected, right? I can understand, since you are reading so much, there is a tendency to share your knowledge. That you do among yourselves, right? Not in UPSC exam. UPSC exam, try to be as focused as possible. So if the question is asked, explain Indo-centricity and its implications, how is it you are going to write this answer? First thing, comprehension. Immediately comprehend what is examiner is expecting. Take for example, with this I am not saying straight away come to the point. You can give some introduction, like what is a region. A region is basically, these are the days of regional grouping. What is regionalism? What is a region? A region is basically a group of a country with certain amount of cultural, geographical and other kinds of contiguities. Stop there. That's all. Only one and a half, maximum 2 lines. This is how you should go about writing an answer. Maximum 2 lines, not more than 2 lines. There. Then come to a regional grouping. What is a regional grouping? 2-3 lines, right? Stop there. Not more than that. Then what is relevant here? SAARC, South Asia. South Asia, about South Asia, simply write certain characteristics, right? Again, let me tell you, this is not the focus of your answer, but here you can write in 4-5 lines that South Asia, characteristics of this region. Here you can afford to write not more than 4 or 5 lines. What are the characteristics of this region? Because nobody is asking you the characteristics of this region, although it is important in the context, but that's not the focus of your answer. But still you can use sufficient space, not more than 4 lines. That is, it is area which is densely populated, primary producing, low in HDI, right? And you can mention all the 7 countries. Most important point, Indo-centric. This is an Indo-centric region. Now all this you are going to, write in not more than 10 lines. Region, regionalism in global politics, SAARC, its characteristics. Now finally you come to the focus of the answer. This question has 2 focus. One is Indo-centricity and second is implication. Now Indo-centricity, the moment you come to Indo-centricity, of course you have all the, out of 250 words, if it is asked in that, you can afford to write 50-60 line, 50-60 words. You can use it for, even 70-80 words you can use for Indo-centricity. How this region is Indo-centric? As I said, geographically, if you look at, India is at the center, right? India shares land maritime boundaries with all these regions. None of them share with each other, right? Military strength, economic strength, right? Global influence, nuclear strength. India is head and shoulders above all these countries. India represents 80% of economic output, 70% of the land mass. Its population is 3 times the population of all these 3 regions put together. All those factors which I told you about, how this region is Indo-centric, I told you, right? Now this has led to asymmetry. Asymmetry has its own implications. What are the implications for foreign policy? Question is Indo-centricity and its implications, right? Right? So what are these countries adopting? Even genuine initiatives of India are being often misunderstood as hegemonistic. So it has led to 3-fold foreign policy. Implication means what it has led to. What are the implications? Internationalizing a regional or a bilateral dispute. Second, involving extra-regional power like China or America or Gulf countries into bilateral disputes. Third, cooperating among themselves in order to marginalize India. Because of this region, SAARC is not all that successful case of regional grouping. Give 1 or 2 contrasting examples, like intra-regional trade is 50% in NAFTA, it is 55% in ASEAN, 60% in European Union and only 5% in this region. And just sum up by saying that an area which is located in such an economically vibrant zone, which has a population of 170 crores people, offers huge opportunity in terms of trade, investments and all that, and just give a good conclusion. That's all. This is how you should write your answer, right? Because in this answer all the qualities have come up. Qualities like comprehension, qualities like articulation, originality, organization, right? Focus. You haven't deviated from focus even for a minute, and then conclusion. This is what a good answer looks like in UPSC. And as I said, a good answer is 80% of selection. Right? I'll take up one more question. Now, one more question could be, as I asked, this one, comparing and contrasting parliamentary supremacy in India vis-a-vis US and America. Right? Because nobody is going to ask you questions like functions of parliament, which any book will, Lakshmikant book will give you, anybody will read and reproduce. Right? These qualities which I have mentioned will not be reflected in such questions. Now, question, try to read the question for first minute. Immediately understand that this question is expecting you to compare the idea of parliamentary supremacy. Right? Centrality of this question is parliamentary supremacy. That is the watchword. Now, this has to be done by comparing constitutions of England, India and America. Basically, we have to deal with Constitution of India, how parliamentary supremacy, where parliamentary supremacy stands in Indian Constitution vis-a-vis the other two constitutions. Right? Don't waste by saying that Parliament consists of Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha consists of so many members, they are elected. All this is simply, see, before writing, before use, that's why I tell students, in life, a child learns, right? You learn to speak at the age of 2. But what to learn, when to learn, how to speak you learn at the age of 2. But what to speak, when to speak, with whom to speak, how much to speak, you spend your entire lifetime. In life, a matured person is one who knows what not to speak before telling you what to speak. So here you should know what you should not write. Unnecessarily you write too many things which makes absolutely no sense, and person who is correcting your paper in UPSC will immediately know that this man is not fit for the job, although your answer technically could be correct. Right? So you should know what you should not write here. In this question you should not write Indian Parliament consists of so many members, they are directly elected, it consists of 2 houses. All these things are not required. Even if you mention, it will create a very bad impression. So what is that you are going to write? Well, India is a case of, in India, although all 3 organs work under constitution in their respective zones, but still Parliament is considered to be supreme because it represents voice of the people. Now comparing it with British Constitution. Indian Constitution is not as supreme as British Constitution for the simple reason, in England there is nothing like judicial review. In England, the constituent powers of Parliament are not same as legislative powers of Parliament. In the sense, in England anything and everything can be changed by simple majority of 51:49, which makes their Parliament supreme. They can change, they can do anything with simple majority. Whereas in India, supremacy of the Parliament is limited by many factors. They are limited by a written constitution. They are limited by fundamental rights. They are limited by independent judiciary. They are limited by judicial review. They are limited by quasi-federal character of the constitution, and they are limited by special procedure for constitutional amendment. Take for example, in India, some provisions can be passed by 51:49. Some provision require 2/3 majority of the members present for voting and overall majority of the house. Some provisions require 2/3 majority plus ratification by 50% of the state legislature. So parliamentary majorities, parliamentary supremacy is compromised in this manner. Then parliamentary supremacy is compromised by judicial review. Any law made by Parliament which is in conflict with any of the fundamental rights will be declared null and void to the extent of contravention. So Parliamentary supremacy in India is limited by many factors. As I said, written nature of the constitution, by fundamental rights, by judicial review, and most important, from 1973, parliamentary supremacy is considerably restricted by the basic structure theory of the constitution. I hope I'll be covering this in greater detail when I cover constitutional amendment. Basic structure theory also limits parliamentary supremacy, right? Although nowhere basic structure theory has been articulated, but it makes it very clear that there are certain implied and inherent restriction in Parliament's power to amend the constitution, right? So all these factors limit parliamentary supremacy in India. It is not as supreme as the British Parliament. Now compared to US Parliament, certainly Indian Parliament is supreme, because here, despite all these limitations, ultimately it is Parliament which brings the fall of the government. It has, if it can take care of basic structure theory, it has literally unlimited amending power under Article 368. It can even amend fundamental rights under Article 368 except 14, 19 and 21, the Trinity what we call. It can literally amend. Right to property was one of the fundamental rights. Today it has been removed from Chapter 3 of the Constitution. With this I am not saying it is not a legal right. Under Article 300 it is a legal right, but no more a fundamental right. So Parliament literally has unlimited power in every regard except, as I said, those limitations, right? It is Parliament which can bring the fall of Prime Minister. It is Parliament which removes President, Vice President, Supreme Court and High Court judges, Chief Justices, right? Election Commission, CAG, all these people, high officials are removed by Parliament. That's not the case in America, right? America, they have judicial supremacy, right? American president once elected, normally his term is fixed, whereas in India, executive are in office as long as they enjoy the confidence of Parliament, primarily the Lok Sabha, right? In America, there is nothing like no confidence motion, right? So all these are the factors which show that Parliament is not, though Indian Parliament not as supreme as British Parliament, but certainly it is very, very powerful with regard to, in comparison to American Parliament. So this is how you should go about writing your answers. And answer writing, if you can improve, I tell you, that is 80% of your selection, right? So answer writing is so important. Keep practicing. There are many questions that I can give you. One question you can take down about tribals. This question I am asking about Schedule 5 and 6 of the Constitution. I'll speak slowly so that you can take down this question. I don't have patience or the space to write on the board. Question is, I'm giving you this question as a answer writing practice. Process of development has contributed to underdevelopment of tribals because there is neat overlap between tribals, forests, minerals and Naxalites. Question mark. Explain this. Explain the above mentioned statement keeping in view the competing claims of development, conservation and rehabilitation. This question I am giving you as an exercise, right? And now finally coming to interview. Interview, you may ask, sir, what kind of questions are asked, from where they are asked. See, questions can be asked from anywhere. It is purely the discretion of the members who sit there. But normally, they also will not be unreasonable to ask you questions, any kind of questions, right? They also are reasonable. Sometimes they even give you choice. They will ask, take for example, if you are international relations is your optional. They themselves will say, well, you are comfortable in which area? Say international relations, governance, or say comparative politics, political thought, or Indian politics, right? But normally you can expect 5 kinds of questions. 5 questions will questions from these 5 areas are generally asked, right? What are these 5 areas? Firstly, about the place to which you belong, right? Suppose you are from, say, Karimnagar district of Telangana, right? They will be asking you questions about Karimnagar, and you should know about that region, right? Anything. That region could be famous for a particular art, particular handicraft, particular tourist place, particular personalities, individuals. Take for example, district of Palaghat, what we call as Palakkad today. It has produced people like Sridharan, Metro Man of India. It has produced people like T.N. Seshan. It has produced justice like Justice Krishna Iyer, like that, right? You should know something about the region to which you belong, right? Otherwise it creates, take for example Karimnagar. You know, Karimnagar is known for its bricks with which you construct houses. It works as insulation. Like during summer, they will lower the temperature, right? And in winters, they will be hot. In summers, they will be cool. Karimnagar is known for its bricks. Karimnagar is known for giving a prime minister like P.V. Narasimha Rao to the country, right? So be thorough about the region. Suppose if you are from some illegal colonies of Jhuggi and Jhopadi of Delhi, never feel shy. Openly say that yes, I belong to that colony. Then you should know what will be the sewage system there, what will be the waste disposal system there, what will be the water facility there. You should know about that. So first question which you should be thorough with in interview should be your the region to which you belong. It could be district, it could be village, it could be city, it could be anything, right? Second question will always be, there will be one question always on your optional which you take. And suppose if you have switched, your base discipline is engineering and you have opted for sociology or history, then they may ask you why is that you have done that, right? Generally there will be question, but be thorough with your optional. There you can always expect one question on optional. Then there could be one question on current affairs, any current affairs. It could be hijab controversy, it could be Ukrainian issue, it could be Maharashtra issue, it could be anything, whatever is the current trend at that time. And there could be one question perhaps on your background, your family background, on your anything. It could be on your background, basically background on your area of interest. Plus you can expect the usual questions that you, but these 5 questions invariably UPSC members ask. One, on your place of your origin or place where you are staying. Second, on your optional. Third, on your interest. Fourth, perhaps on your family background. And one question invariably that will be asked will be on current affairs. Here again, let me add, don't bluff, don't fake anything. If you are not confident about anything, simply say I don't know. Don't think that it is going to create any bad impression, right? Otherwise, if you do not know and if you answer, I tell you all your other good efforts will come to naught if you try to fake there, because if you utter something, immediately they will come to know it. So if you are not confident about anything, if you are not sure about anything, simply say, sir, that I am not sure. Or you can, of course there are ways of saying it, you can say in a very decent manner that, well sir, I have not given a thought to that. I'll certainly look into that. Well, I have not studied that. I have somehow during course of preparation I overlooked it. Right? Simply say in a very decent tone. So these are the 5 kinds of questions which you can get it. Of course, on current affairs, on other questions, you can afford to say, I don't know. But you cannot afford to say, I don't know, to a question which is asked about your area. Right? Suppose if you are from, say, Gaya district of Bihar, and the question is asked to you, why Gaya is famous? If you cannot answer that it is Bodhi tree of Buddha is there, then again it is going to say, create a very bad impression about you. Right? As I said, on current affairs, on any questions of core issues, you can afford to say, I don't know. Right? So suppose if the question is asked on Ukraine, you can say, I don't know. But about your family background, about your place of origin, please don't say, I don't know. You will, because UPSC expects that you should know something about that region. So this is about orientation, about prelims, about mains, about interview. I tell you, if you go in such a systematic manner, I tell you, unless and until you yourself go and mar your chances by giving some irrelevant answer, there is nothing which can prevent you from clicking in this exam. In case of a doubt, you are free to ask any doubts to me. In subsequent classes, I will be clearing them to you. Right? With this, I conclude. Thanks.
कितनी देर का होगा? 1 हुआ